Hi, so my name is Vlad Spencer. I'm talking to you from Washington, D.C. I want to thank you for being with us here today for a virtual webinar done by World Learning and dedicated to women in sports, as players, as leaders, as coaches, or mentors. This program is part of the International Sports Programming Initiative, which is a State Department Sports Diplomacy Exchange program implemented by World Learning. The webinar is produced by World Learning and the Digital Communication Network. And today we'll focus on challenges and opportunities for women in sports. Challenges that are personal, practical, economic, and ultimately cultural. Since we are in Zoom, audience probably is familiar by now after three months of social distancing with Zoom. And you know that if you have questions, you could ask the questions in the chat room, and I will monitor the chat room and present some of the questions to the speakers. Feel free to also post your contacts and relevant sites because this webinar, beyond the discussion that we're going to have, is a way for us to connect. And as you saw, we have speakers from all over the world, and the moderator from Yerevan, Armenia, my colleague, and also a member of the executive committee of the Armenian Football Federation, Anna Tadevosyan. So Anna, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Vlad. Thank you all for being here, and thank you, our amazing speakers. And I'm sure that we'll hear lots of good things about women being in sports, being leaders and coaches. And I want to start our webinar with an amazing person, Brandi, two times Olympic champions, 2 times World Cup champion. And Brandi, thank you for taking time and being with us today. I want to start with maybe very simple questions. So at the beginning of your career, was it challenging or unusual to play soccer as a girl, mostly when that game at that time back then in US wasn't so popular?
Well, good morning, Anna, and thank you very much. And Vlad, thank you very much for hosting something that obviously is very timely in terms of talking about equality and the necessity of health and wellness is, I think, at the top of all of our minds. To answer your question, I think it was more of a struggle to be a soccer player than it was a female soccer player, because football in this country was not very well regarded or embraced. And so that probably, where I grew up, which is in Northern California, quite liberal in its thinking, was probably more unusual for me to be a soccer football player than it was to be a girl playing sports. But to dig deeper then would have been, yes, I think for a lot of people it was unusual to see a young girl playing all sports. It wasn't that I just played soccer. It was that I also participated in American football and baseball and running track and field and skateboarding. And it was, for me, being physical and being outside and being active just seemed to be a part of my DNA. And luckily for me, I had 2 very supportive parents and a community that recognized that I had some aptitude for the game of football. And so I was very lucky to be encouraged.
Perfect. I think, and we all are very lucky. So your parents let you play soccer, and we have you a great player. And I want to ask, so in '99, that World Cup that happened in US, you think it was the turning point for the women football growth? You know, sold out stadiums, Rose Bowl, 80,000 people, lots of media attention. What do you think? That was that turning point for all world for women football? Soccer.
Well, I think it was, I don't know if I would give it such a big turning point title, only because we're still having the same conversation about pay equity. And so what we did is we captured an audience that had never watched women's team sports collectively before. And so what happened at that time, it did open a lot of eyes to a lot of things. And I feel it's not just women playing football, it was women playing football well. It was that the game has grown, that the game is global, that the game is really genderless. And so I think it hit a lot of notes here in this country, in the United States, but I think it also got the attention for FIFA because it was a very successful tournament. All the stadiums were very large in size, and I would say that the ticket sales were very close to sold out. And so when you do something that economically gets someone's attention, then you really can start to make change. And so I think in that way, yes, you're right. It was a turning point that FIFA may have seen women's football as a good opportunity for business. But I think other people like us saw it as a great opportunity and showcase for young girls to dream and to decide that they could be whatever it is that they wanted to be.
And you think last year World Cup also was very successful in France and lots of attention. Almost all the games were sold out. But again, as you said, again, we are talking about from 1999 till now about equal opportunities for the girls. So what's your advice, or what do you think how we can change it as a leaders in men's sports as a woman?
Well, I think we have to, obviously, grassroots is probably the most important thing we can do. I mean, listen, when I grew up, soccer was a foreign sport, right? It was the people who immigrated to the United States who played traditionally and came from cultures that embrace football. And so when I fell in love with it, I was the oddball, right? So I think right now what we're trying to say is that shouldn't be the oddity, it should be the norm, and it should be the norm for everyone. And the way to start that is to start it with the younger people as people, you know, I'm going to share my screen with you and everybody. I'm going to tell you about a program that we started here in my community. It's called the Bay Area Women's Sports Initiative. And we help and serve underserved girls in our community. And the point of it is not to teach football, it's not to teach a specific sport, but it's to encourage health and wellness, whether that be physical, whether that be mental, whether that be community related. We teach activities, yes, we teach connection, we teach contribution, expectation, skills for life, a sense of belonging. We show that through our studies on our program that 67% of girls liked and love exercise. They want to join in. They always feel important when they're on a team. They want to learn about leadership. Look at that number, 87% want to learn about leadership. They want to be in those positions if given an opportunity. 71% learned that setting goals for themselves and then accomplishing those goals give them confidence. And so I think it's these grassroots organizations like ABASI, which stands for the Bay Area Women's Sports Initiative, will help and strengthen communities across the globe. So it takes people who have a passion for something like we're talking about today, and an investment, a very small investment by people. We will take a nickel from anybody and use it for these girls because we know that they're the future foundation of our community that we live in. And I'm hoping that Jennifer Smith, our CEO, is on the line and will post our link so everybody could go to see Bossy and recognize that this Bossy program is really something that everybody can do in their community, because wherever there's an adult female, there's a teenage female, and then there's obviously some young grade school females who need role models and mentorship wherever they are, wherever you live. I will stop sharing for now, so in case you need to.
And now you are working with young girls as a coach, and right. From your experience and what you see now, what's motivation words, how you tell them what they should be, or they can be whatever they want to be, but how your motivation works. What do you tell them?
Well, I think the number one thing I'm trying to let me just indict myself by saying that my coaching evolution is still going. Right, I'm not the coach that I hope to be. I'm the coach that I'm trying to be, and I'm working towards that every day. And I think by living that, I show my players that we don't have to be perfect, that we have to set our goals, and that we have to make strides in those directions, and we're going to fall down. I think most women feel that if they're not going to be perfect at something, they won't jump in because we might just get one chance. And if we don't succeed and hit the bullseye on that one chance, we won't ever have a chance again. And what happens is then we don't execute an opportunity, and then we miss the chance and the chance has gone by. So I'm trying to empower my girls to recognize that their future is in their own hands. And I think that empowerment is the differentiator, because when you feel powerless, you feel hopeless, you don't have the energy, the courage, the confidence to move forward. And so, yes, I'm kind of like, if you've been bowling and you're not a good bowler, when you throw the ball, sometimes it goes into the gutter, right? And then you lose the opportunity to hit the pins. I'm kind of the gentle guardrails that keeps the ball on the lane, but doesn't necessarily make it a strike every time. They are going to be the ones who are going to correct the roll of the ball. I'm just there to gently guide them as they make their way through this pathway, and to share my experiences. I mean, I have things behind me that I wanted to show, because, the sign here, this is a bossy sign: little girls with big dreams become women with vision. Empowered women empower women. And of course, the picture you have behind you and the sports bra behind me, those are moments that people can use as motivation, or to feel good. But really, women on this call, young girls in our community, need to feel that they are in charge of who they want to be. And that is a powerful dose if you can give it to them.
Thank you, Brandi. As we have many speakers, we'll come back with questions after all speakers will share their experience. Now we'll go to Dalal Al-Rashid from Kuwait. She's a fitness coach of Kuwait Women Football National Team. Dalal, welcome, and thank you for being with us today. Dalal?
Yep.
Yeah,
I can hear.
Okay, perfect. So, as I know that the Kuwait Women Football National Team was created 10 years ago only. So, what do you think, why it took so long to create the national team, and still you are in creating the league, starting the league?
So it was created probably 10 years ago, but we just started about a year and a half ago for the futsal team. And it's the same with the football. So we're still working on that. I think it took a while because of the acceptance of just getting people to accept women playing football. But that's pretty much not my, that's the committee's conversation to have. Mine is more about the sports injuries and working with the female athletes in an injury perspective.
Yeah, so, but as working with the national women football national team, what do you think the society is starting to accept it in Kuwait? What you, as a working with the team or working in that field, should do for society to change the image?
I feel like the past couple of years, they have been starting to accept it. I feel like the people in charge of it right now are bringing more awareness to football and futsal. In the past, I used to play soccer growing up. It wasn't very accepted at the time. We did not have a national team. We don't have club teams. We didn't have anywhere to play. And anywhere we played, it was pretty much, we would have to pay for fields, rent them out, and just play for fun. It wasn't taken serious. And I think it just became serious 2 years ago. So we're still working on developing that from that aspect.
As you said, so when you were playing, it wasn't not so many opportunities and you have to pay for field, but you went there and you played the game. So what was your motivation to do that?
I play. I wanted to play since I was a child, but we didn't have an opportunity. So for me, I picked working with injuries and going to study athletic training in the States and bring that to Kuwait and bring awareness from that sense. Because when I used to play, it was more of if you do get hurt, then that's the end of your career, that's the end of your life. You can never play football again. So I took a different opportunity and thought I should go study something else and bring it to Kuwait from that aspect of working to bring awareness to injuries, for example, that it's a contact sport, but the girls still can play. Um, it was even the way people would talk about, in let's say if a girl got hurt when I used to play, that was something frowned upon, and you don't want to talk about it or even talk about why how you got hurt because you were playing football. Now I'm trying to bring awareness in the sense of they got injured because they participated in the sport, they are representing a country, they're trying to build something from nothing. So
All right.
that's
So loving the sports and staying in sports, this is what you tell the girls, even if they don't become a professional players.
find a way to work for the sport. If it's coaching, if it's being an athletic trainer, if it's being a physiotherapist, if it's being an orthopedic, we don't have any access to it. We have access, but it's not, no one really talks about it as much. So I feel like even if you don't become an athlete or you don't become a football player, do take chances to bring football to Kuwait, whether it's through studying something to do with coaching, tactics, sports behavior, whatever it is you can do to help the sport grow.
Okay, perfect. And you think that now the little girls now in Kuwait, they are interested to play sports, or they think that sports will help them to become a leaders in different fields?
This time more than ever, because I feel like with the girls playing the past 2 years, they've brought awareness to the sport, and the girls are looking up to them and understanding that they do have an opportunity and a chance to represent the country and do play football or futsal. I feel like it's just with the social media and getting into more houses now, people are becoming more prone to understand football and the culture of football, which is a nice thing. So I
Perfect.
feel like
I'm
within
glad, yeah, I'm glad to hear that then even in Kuwait and this kind of traditional societies like mine as well, we are
yeah,
trying to teach the girls that football is like other sports. You can play and then you can achieve different fields in this.
exactly.
Thank you, Dalal. And I'll move to Cynthia Mumbo from Kenya. Cynthia is founder and CEO of Sports Connect Africa. Welcome, Cynthia.
Thank you. Thank you, Anna. Hello, everybody.
Hi. So Cynthia, from 2009 2014, you were the member of Executive Committee in Basketball Federation of Kenya. What
Right.
was your path to achieving it? How difficult was it?
Let me just say that I was one of the first women in that leadership position, and the youngest woman at that time. So I joined the executive committee of the Basketball Federation at 25, which was pretty young. And it's a phenomenon not just in Africa. I've realized that all across the globe, leadership positions are left to guys who are 50 and over generally. And it was a very interesting experience, but it taught me. I learned quite a bit. I mean, I like to look at for me, experiences is about what you learn from them. I went in there with a big head saying, I'm going to change things, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And it was a lot of learning, because a lot of the times it was, hey, hold your horses. You're here, but that doesn't mean you're here to do everything the way you want to do them. So I learned how to work, within that framework. We did bring in so many different changes. Within the time I was there, we got Kenyan basketball on Pan-African TV Super Sport. My background is marketing, so that for me was, something that we were very excited about. When we were there, we got, for the first time in a long time, partnerships with local companies that came in to support the game. So it was there were achievements. While I was there, I was team manager for the national team at the All Africa Games. I remember my experience in Maputo was quite fascinating. I walked into a meeting for team managers, and I went in with the coach, and we had, team managers and members of FIBA Africa from all over. And I was pretty tiny at that time. I was still, running, playing my basketball, but team manager. And the question was, and they asked this in French, which was interesting. They said, why did you come with one of the players? This is a team managers meeting. They asked the coach, this is a team managers meeting. And I responded in French. I said, guys, I'm sorry, I'm the team manager. He's just coming with me because he knows you. And yeah, you can imagine the look on everyone's faces. They were all like, okay. And I had to consistently, and I still do that a lot even now. I have to consistently show that I'm capable. Over time, because people have gotten to know that, Cynthia's been in the business of sport for some time, but every other time you walk into a room, half of the time people ask you, who's going to bring the tea? And I'm like, I'm sorry, that's not my job. It happens. It's a very patriarchal, community, and I'm certain a lot of women have experienced what I've experienced, but I stand my ground, and I'm like, guys, I'm here because I'm capable, and I'm here because I know that I'm going to make a difference, and that's what I do.
And all this your experience brought you to this point that you founded an NGO. And I think what you want to achieve with this NGO?
I'll be very clear, it's not an NGO. It's actually a commercial entity, which it happens so many times. People think that we are an NGO, and a lot of sports entities in this part of the world are NGOs. I'm very passionate about creating commercial community opportunities, rather, for young people on the continent. A lot of the times, whenever we go into sports, it comes from we need help, not we want to empower young people so that they build themselves, they build their character beyond just their character. They're able to earn a living. If you do a research and if you go down to the ground, ask any African young lad, where do you want to be, in your sporting career in the next 5-10 years? The conversation is always, I want to go and play in Europe. We say Maju, and I can see a couple of my Kenyan friends are here. They know what that means. Maju means up there. I want to go up. I want to go to America to play my basketball. I want to go to Europe and play football. I want to go and so my question has always been, then who's going to do that at home? And that's what, pushes me, that I want to be able to create solutions that are local, that we can be able to empower Africans at the local level and industry. Just last week, on Sunday, I had a conversation with a gentleman from originally from Ghana who lives in the US, and he asked me, "Look, we want to do something back at home, but we don't know what to do." And I said, he asked, "Can I send rims?" I said, "No, why do you want to send a rim? Why not partner with a local organization and hire local welders to build that rim, because then you support the local community beyond just the football or pitch or the basketball pitch. You're supporting the whole, community." So, for me, the NGO world is a world that I totally respect, and we work in partnership with different NGOs. But my thinking is, if we can create commercial opportunities that can support these young guys, that if we can support leagues to turn them into products, that different partners can come in and support these leagues and support these federations, then there's a bigger conversation than just the NGO world.
So now, after you were the youngest one as a woman and a member of executive committee, there were any changes in federation now that they accept more women as the leaders, or you do the workshops with your association and you teach the former players or current players?
So I'm actually I just left the Kenya Basketball Women Commission about a year ago. So I've been working with them to connect them. Sports Connect Africa is literally just that. I'm about connecting my networks to, you know, different people. I'm very passionate about that. So I'm all about who do I know and who can they support locally, and how, and this is, you know, at a free of charge, because it doesn't make sense for me to charge to connect people. But, you know, being able to connect the different people, whether they're local, whether it's the association. We're currently working with a good friend of mine. He's the former CEO of CAF. For those who do not know, CAF is the Confederation of African Football. And we're working to set up a sports business school for Africa, because we realize that there's so much potential. There's so much opportunity. We want to be able to open up these spaces for people to collaborate, for people to, you know, speak, for people to partner with each other. And really that's the direction that we'd like to take.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Cynthia. We'll come back with more questions from participants. And now I want to introduce you to my good friend, Andrea Montalbano. She's an actor and she's the founder of Girls of Armenian Leadership Soccer. I think that for us, for Armenia, is turning point for women's soccer development. Andrea, hi and welcome.
Hi, great to be here, and thank you so much for including me on this incredible panel. I love hearing all these voices and ideas.
Thank you. So I want to start, and I want you to talk a little bit about the idea of writing Soccer Sisters, how you came up with this.
Sure. So I was a soccer player, much like Brandi was. We're exactly the same age, and had a similar experience in that I was supported as a soccer player in a country that really didn't have football as a main sport. And I was able to play soccer in college, and after that I became a journalist. And after a while I decided that I really wanted to marry those two passions, my skills as a writer and my skills in soccer. And in particular, I really thought it was important to have some strong female protagonists in my books, because there was not a genre of girls soccer books at the time. There's still not that many, and I really did believe that, you know, there were so many lessons that could be shared through the stories, and that it was important for girls to be able to see themselves as the characters in books. And also it's sort of an avenue, like every book is has a different point of view from a different protagonist. So it can take the story in many different directions and try and be as inclusive as possible. And I have to thank Brandi, who's been a huge supporter of not only the books, but the entire concept of Soccer Sisters, which is all about supporting girls and women through sport and whatever their endeavors are on and off the field. So that was really the inspiration for me to write the series.
Perfect. And so when in 2014, I think first time you came to Armenia, so you came with the mission to go to the villages and to start and to see what the girls, what they are playing, if they have opportunities to play. So what was for you the most difficult at that time when you saw the villages, what the girls, they don't have anything to do?
Well, yeah, I was invited to Armenia in 2014 because I had been coaching, and the U.S. ambassador at the time, John Heffern, really was a strong believer in grassroots efforts for female soccer players. And there had been a national team in Armenia that still had a very active group, even though the federation at the time wasn't supporting it. So I suppose my biggest challenge was going and breaking the stereotypes in the villages that girls should not play soccer because they would get hurt or because it wasn't a sport for girls. And you know, my main message during that time, and continues to be, is that, you know, I lived through change myself, that change is possible. And, you know, girls getting hurt is not the end of the world. They you know, yeah, soccer, you can get hurt, but you pick yourself up. And every time you pick yourself up and you get better, you know, you learn about your body, you learn to be tougher. And so I think my biggest challenge was trying to find somebody to listen to me. You know, I was in a foreign place. I'd never been there before. I didn't speak the language. I had to use my kids to demonstrate my drills. But I really did find a lot of people were listening, and a lot of people were ready to hear that message. And so many young girls in the villages and their parents, men and women, you know, were ready to say, okay, let's let them play. And so slowly over time, we were able to start the leagues. And, you know, you are on a living proof of how far things have come in Armenia. You know, at the time there were no leagues, and now there are leagues for girls in every region of the country, and there are national teams. So, you know, I think that the grassroots effort that Brandi was talking about was really the note I was trying to strike. And luckily there was a receptive audience in Armenia.
Yeah, and now because of goals, we have big grassroots for federation, and we have lots of leagues, as you said, and we created different age group national teams. So it's all because that 2014 you visited Armenia, and I think everybody is thanking you for that in Armenia here, mostly the girls in the villages, because it gave them opportunity to dream big and to go from grassroots to all the way to the national team. So, and I want you to talk a little bit about your work with an amazing organization, Coaches Across Continents. And I know that last year, December, you visited Zanzibar with Coaches Across Continents. And I want you to talk a little bit about women challenges there and what you saw.
Sure, I'd be happy to. I'll tell you briefly, just Coaches Across Continents. I'm happy to see there are multiple people here on the chat from CAC. Is an incredible organization that uses sport for social change all over the world, and was really the game changer for us in Armenia, because we were trying to create leagues, but we also needed a curriculum and a purpose. And, you know, our purpose was, you know, we were happy to make good soccer players, but that was not our goal. Our goal was to create leaders who would dream big, like Brandi said, leaders who could become confident in their own communities. And the curriculum that CAC provides is really about self-directed learning and making change from within. So it wasn't us coming in and saying, this is how you should change your communities. It was learning from CAC about how people within their own communities could help themselves, which is really so valuable. In Zanzibar, so after my professional career was as a TV producer. So after I wrote books, I still had the need and desire to do that. So I went with Coaches Across Continents to work in Zanzibar on a program that supports family planning and sexual health and reproductive rights education for girls there. And it's an incredible partnership with CAC and Pathfinder International. And, you know, I just really feel like there are so many lessons that we can share with one another. You know, what I've learned in Armenia, and I learned again in Zanzibar, and what I'm learning today. I mean, I just think this whole concept of a soccer sister community is music to my ears. So that was my work in Zanzibar. We just posted them. Maybe the CAC folks can share the links to the video. I know there are a few on the chat.
Yeah, sure. Please share the video, and I'm sure it is very interesting. I saw the video. And thank you, Andrea. We'll come back with the questions, more questions a bit later. Now I want you to introduce Noor Dajani from Jordan. She's a CrossFit trainer and also the Olympic weightlifting trainer. Noor, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much, Anna. Thank you everyone for being here today.
Let's talk a little bit. In your bio, you are saying that when you are young, you were a very active girl, but there was lots of opportunities for you to play sports, just any sports. So please tell us how you changed this when you were 25, I think, when you started to be actively involved in sports.
Yeah, so first of all, I'm so happy to be with a bunch of football professionals and football, leaders, because my passion, the first and my only passion was soccer, but I didn't have the chance to play soccer at all. I was able to play sports in my late 20s, and when it happened, it was weightlifting because I was at the gym. When I realized my passion is sports, I started to do some like fitness training certifications, just to be able to be in this atmosphere and to get to know more of this kind of the world. Just because growing up in a community in the Middle East, we have a lot of restrictions on women and girls participating in sports. Women or girls have to practice sports behind the doors. It's so hard to do it publicly, especially like if your parents are very protective. So that was my case. When I realized that my passion and I want to put my life and make it about sports later in my 20s, I was in the gym trying to train other people. At the same time, I found a group of guys doing Olympic weightlifting, and that just, it was a perfect timing, the right time in the right place. And I was just so interested to learn this sport. So I started with Olympic weightlifting, and then I found that CrossFit had a lot of weightlifting involved in it. So I started to focus more on gaining knowledge and experience. I was already a mother of one kid, so it was so hard for me to focus on being an athlete at that time, which made me focus more on being a good coach, the best coach I can be. So I tried to gain a lot of experience and certifications. Later on, I was the first female to get CrossFit Level 3 certificate in Jordan and the Middle East as a woman. So I spent so much time developing myself as a coach because it was so hard for me to put the time and effort and to fight the fight for being a female athlete in such a sport. So my sport could be like different than everybody else of the speakers. So Olympic weightlifting is a man's sport. Women only were allowed to participate in Olympic weightlifting in the Olympics in 2000 in Sydney. So this is too late compared to any other sport. In Jordan, that was the year that the federation was interested to start thinking into having some kind of education or experience for women in this sport. It was so hard because nobody was okay with women lifting weights or girls. And I mean, the issue was convincing the parents to let their kids and their girls to take part of it. And I would say it's so sad that the first group of females started participating in Olympic weightlifting in Jordan was from an orphanage, just because there was no parents to, put any kind of limitations or stop them from, pursuing such a sport. Now it's still so hard to get female athletes to be part of this kind of sport. CrossFit have helped so much because it's like a modern thing, but it's also so limited to a certain socioeconomic group. I'm still working and trying, the federation here, they understand how important it is for women to participate just because they've been exposed. They went to so many places in the world. They've seen the benefits and the myths of, Olympic weightlifting for women. So now they believe they want to spread the word, but the challenge is the parents. The challenge is the parents to let their girls be part of sports. Sometimes I would say weightlifting, but actually, honestly, it's about all sports.
So what you do to motivate them, in these situations with having the parents that don't let them come to the weightlifting or any sport, as you said, what you do to motivate them?
So my own effort, so this is why I founded Me Power. It just started this year, and that's what I'm doing. So what I'm doing is I'm using high intensity workouts and weightlifting to help women be more resilient and girls be more resilient. And because there's so many conflicts, the conflict is inside the house, it's in the community everywhere. So if we teach the women and the girls the skills of resilience and how to overcome conflicts and believe in what they want and be smart about navigating the conflicts and the stress they're gonna have, being able to do hard conversations, to overcome hard situations is so important as a skill for them in order to, be involved in sports. So sometimes mothers could be okay with their kids, their girls going to play sports, but sometimes the men in the family are the obstacles. So teaching the women, the mothers and the girls, these skills, the resilience skills, Me Power comes from the word that I'm the power is the reverse of empower, because we believe women have the power. Everybody has the power. They just need to learn the right skills and tools to use this power to speak up and have their voices heard. So that's what I'm doing. I started the first group of women, teaching them those resilience skills. Hopefully this program will grow. We'll work with all teenagers and mothers, because they are the keys for their daughters, and they're gonna stand up for them, for their daughters. The daughters are so young to fight this fight. Sometimes they can't, they don't know. I did not know. I didn't fight my fight because I just didn't know I want it that bad or it was worth it. So I think mothers have a huge role in helping their daughters and speaking up for them.
Perfect. Thank you, Noor, for sharing all this, and we'll come back to you again. So I think that Brandi will leave like in 15 minutes. So we want to ask questions that participants has for Brandi. Vlad, please, can you ask the questions from the audience?
Yeah, definitely. So I want to know if maybe Cassandra could ask her own question. If Cassandra hears us, and maybe she could come with video or only sound. Could you ask a question, Cassandra?
Yeah, sure. Thanks very much, Vlad. Actually, the question I had actually doesn't necessarily have to be answered by Brandi, but can be answered by everyone. My question was essentially, what are your thoughts on tackling issues relating to women in sports, especially in third world countries? And in the essence, do you know of any issues that you had to overcome as a gender stigma, particularly in women's football back in the 90s?
Cassandra is from Malaysia.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry, I'm from Malaysia.
She's a lawyer and a soccer player also. So Brandi?
You can manipulate your opponent with words and your physical prowess. Can you hear me?
Oh, Brandi, we didn't hear you.
Oh, shoot. I was just saying to Cassandra that she could, since she's a lawyer and a football player, she could manipulate the opponent physically and with her words. So that's she's a very powerful woman. I'm not sure I am the best person to answer the question, but as Nora was talking, I'm constantly trying to take others' examples and real life experiences and apply them to where I am. And it seems that we all have obstacles, but I think the best thing is that we all also have power. And I think to put them, I love the resiliency component of what Nora was saying, is that, there's going to be plenty of people in the world who say no or tell you can't. But persistence and resiliency is the thing that makes change. So you just have to find one person that will say yes. That's really it. You find that one person, and then that one person helps you find the next person. So I find that persistence. For me in my career, as an example, I was on the women's national team, but prior to that, I had 2 major knee injuries that kept me out of football for 2.5 years. And during that time, many people said, why don't you just stop playing? Do something else that you won't get injured doing. But my passion for playing was more persistent than the desire to give up. And so I think it's that kind of courage that we need to move forward.
Yeah, there's a question, and I would like maybe leave the microphone to Ryan Murphy.
Ryan?
Officer for all this exchange and including this program. But before that, there's a question from Leah. If you're able to go independent, I think, let's hear from Brandi. To this question, maybe Ryan could say a few words after that.
Well, I'd like to answer whatever the question is as best as I can, but your whole entire, everything you were saying was, I couldn't hear it. So I'm not sure what you're referring to. Yeah, repeat what the question is, Vlad, or whomever's question it was can repeat it. Or type it in the chat.
Okay, let's go to Ryan. Ryan is from Sports Diplomacy. Ryan, can you hear us?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, if you have questions to Brandi, because we know that she will leave, so please do.
Yeah, so no specific questions. Just want to thank Brandi and all the panelists for doing this session. This is one in a series that the World Learning Team has put on in conjunction with the Sports Diplomacy Program. So just thank you very much for this. I see a lot of alumni from our programs on here, as well as the Global Sports Mentorship Program. Noor was a member of that last year. And I had the opportunity to meet her when I was in Jordan last year as well on another program. So really just wanted to hear maybe from Noor and from Brandi. Brandi went out to Brazil as a sports envoy for us in 2013. Just really about your experiences on traveling on behalf of the US Department of State and some of the really impact that you've had. Brandi, you had in Brazil, and then Noor, some of the kind of impact that you had from the program here in the US that you took back home with you in Jordan.
Noor, would you like to go first?
I know that Brandi has to leave, so if you want to go first. Okay, sure, I can go first. I thought, Brandi, if you have to leave, you can go first if you would like.
You know, I think what I would say, Ryan, is that my experience was learning that it's not done the same everywhere, right? So I think that for me was the biggest eye opener, is that we all have our challenges, but in different ways. And I mean, I'm typing here, and we're talking about Bangladesh on the side, and how, you know, the obstacles are much different than I face here in the US. And so that opened my eyes to the fact that, you know, things don't always happen in the same pathway. And so, you know, how can we be creative, and how can change occur when there's so much resistance? But I think, Noor, I'm sorry if I'm putting you on the spot by going back to you, just by saying, like, I just feel like this resiliency is really a cure to an environment that really is a negative environment, that doesn't really understand how positive it could be. And maybe that's what it is, you know, being able to shine a light on a positive result in the face of such negative feedback. I think once we just get that, it's like, you know, you put the seed in the ground, and as soon as that first bloom comes, people all of a sudden are like, oh, but it does take a while for that to happen. So I think patience and resiliency are really critical when making change. And I would say, Ryan, even, you know, from when we went to Brazil, I don't feel like everybody there was very open to what we were saying at the Seskis, right? They didn't really want to embrace girls playing football. It was a nice opportunity for some people who had similar thoughts to sit in a room like we're doing today virtually and share our stories and to applaud each other. But really, when, you know, boots on the ground kind of things is more difficult. So I think it's just patience and persistence and continued work.
Noor, can you answer?
So I think I will go back to what Brandi said. But she said sometimes one person saying yes really helps pave the way and give you the confidence and the support that you need. So for me, GSMP, the program that I participated in, was that person that says yes to me and makes me feel, yes, what I'm doing is worth it. It's I have the support system. I have so many other women who are the sisters in the program that are going through the same what I'm going, maybe in different ways, in different environments, different challenges, but we're all moving our mountains, each of us our own mountain. So that was very helpful. But at the same time, it was made me more resilient in a way that it put me on the spotlight. A lot of my pictures lifting weights had so many negative feedback, so many harassments, and maybe if I weren't part of something big and supportive, that would have discouraged me. But now I feel like, yes, I will be the one who will pave the way to the other women who want to be part of this. I will take all of it. That's fine. I'm okay. I want them to see pictures of women doing lifting weights, being in a squat position, and I want to normalize it. So that was like the positive of it, and the negative that I would say will turn positive.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, that's perfect, and I think you hit on really the topic of this whole webinar, as well as one of the key themes that we embrace is really empowering women and girls through sports and creating opportunities for women and girls to participate in sports. The US has a very kind of unique situation with having Title IX and creating those opportunities, whereas there's a lot of other countries that don't have that. So really trying to get the word out there and increase those opportunities is something that we're trying to do at the U.S. Department of State through the sports diplomacy programs.
Thank you, Ryan, and we'll come back to you again after we talk with our last two speakers that I work with very closely. So I want to introduce you Emma Sakis from Switzerland. She is a senior women's football development manager at UEFA. Emma, hi and welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Sure. So Emma, UEFA is a major force in promoting women football in Europe. What is key in making women's sports more popular? What are the best strategies for promotion and business models? And you just launched a very good strategy. So please talk a little bit about that.
Oh, big question. To be honest, what I've learned over the last 9 years of working in women's football in Europe is visibility. Actually, is the main driver for sport, but also most particularly for women's sports. If you can't see it, you don't believe it, and that's at every level. It's what inspires girls to want to have fun, and it's what inspires people to want to become professional sports women. And I think over the last couple of years, we've really seen women's sport take off because of the positioning that it has through digital, social media, and more TV. So that's our kind of main strategic goal at UEFA, is to try and get women's football seen as much as possible. That's why we have our campaigns called We Play Strong, which very much is about female empowerment and just trying to play football and having a go. But UEFA's strategy kind of also focuses on 5 pillars. It looks at grassroots football as well as professional football. It looks at child safeguarding issues, as well as changing perceptions of society towards the women's game, which in Europe is very polarized. We have Nordic countries and we also have Eastern European and Southern countries as well, where the differences in gender equality are seen quite specifically through sport. So we try and communication channels to change, and our competitions to change the perception of girls and women through football. One of our major initiatives to do that, which we launched this year, was called UEFA Playmakers. And Anna, which I think you wanted me to mention, which is actually a collaboration with Disney. And it's about getting the youngest girls between the ages of 5 to 8 who've never played football before involved with football. But primarily it's not a football program. It's actually about physical literacy, getting young girls to want to move and to enjoy play, really, and movement. And we do that through the power of Disney stories. So at the moment we use for example, The Incredibles, try to use films that have very strong female empowerment characters. And basically the girls take on the role of Incredibles characters and play football and other movement skills through this program. But what's really specific about the program is that it's been designed specifically with girls in mind, and what are the life skills that girls miss through normal programs and projects that sports and other organizations offer to develop things like resilience and decision making and group work, things that are actually missing in the way that girls naturally behave. So it's quite a diverse program, but it's one that we're very proud of, and we're looking forward to it rolling across the whole of Europe in the next few years.
So as you said, you were working in UEFA for 9 years, and you work with 55 European countries, 55 associations that not mainly, all of them led by men. So did you see in last year changes in the associations or how the women becoming leaders?
Yeah, I think definitely. I mean, at the moment we have, I think, 3 female kind of CEOs or general secretaries, presidents, which is more than when I started. It's not very many, but it's definitely an improvement. But there is more women involved at the directors level. And there are more women in our committees and around the table in the decision positions. Maybe they're not the lead and the top person at the pyramid, but across the whole, I mean, you're an example, Anna. You're a female member of an executive committee, and I don't think that there were many female members of executive committees in football associations 9 years ago. So there's definitely been an improvement, but there is a significant long way to go.
And what do you think? What does it take for a woman to lead in sports like football? What skills women should have to lead in the sports?
It's a good question. I mean, I think all women naturally will have these skills. It's just about bringing them to the forefront. But you have to be tenacious and resilient to make it in a lot of environments, not just sports and football. You have to know which to pick, because when you are representing maybe women's sports, there's lots of fights, and you have to have a strategy and a game plan that really works when you're talking and presenting what you want. But I think the one skill set that I've noticed that we need the most is actually politics. You have to be part of the system and the politics that are very entrenched within sport. If you don't play part in the politics, then it is much harder to navigate the system.
Perfect. And I hope that we will grow the number of women leaders in our associations sooner. So thank you, Emma, and I will come back with more questions. Now I want you to introduce Maria Suchkova from Russia. She's head of women football department in Russian Football Union, and also she's UEFA Grow mentor. She's actually my mentor. She's helping me to write the women's football development strategy. Maria, hi and welcome.
Hello, everybody, and Anna, thank you so much for inviting.
Thank you. So I want you to talk a little bit about the NGO that you created in Moscow. So why you started this, what it was needed at that time for the girls, different age, women, different age to play football.
Sure. Well, it's actually an interesting story. We've had a kids football school, and then at some point the moms would come to us and say, we want to play football too. So this actually came not as our idea, but as an idea from our audience. And that was 6-7 years ago already. And since then, it grew really into a huge community of very different women, some who had some football background, some who just came to us and entered the football field for the first time in their lives. We also grew into a little kids academy for girls specifically, when we realized that girls may not be comfortable in entering the sport together with boys, and they need this safe space where they can try and grow more confident and then go ahead and play as a group with the guys as well. As for the reasons, I see the two major things that accompanied us throughout this journey. First, it's the access, and that's still a major problem in Russia of access of girls and women to a place where they can play football and where they can feel safe at the same time and not afraid of mockery or some comments, and a place where they can feel their own community. So that's one thing. And another thing that we've tried to do throughout the years is what we've talked about throughout this call as well, is changing perception. So what we want to do and what we've been doing is showing to our audience, to the parents of our girls, that football is a normal sport for women. There is nothing special about a girl or a woman playing football, and that this can become a part of a lifestyle. So we're taking the small steps and going there. For instance, one example, we had one of our little girls on a popular talk show on TV the other day, and she had to score with the guy in front of the goal who had his eyes closed. And basically, if this happened in Russia, say 4 years ago or even 2 years ago, there would be a lot of discussion of how you are a girl and how you play football, and how this is a different experience for you, and how do you feel about this. And yesterday we saw that there was no discussion whatsoever about how she feels being a girl and playing football. And this is really a sign for us that this perception is changing, and that we see this small shift, small step of the society and the general audience accepting girls within football, and accepting that this is a sport without gender.
Yeah. So as we are writing the strategy, and our societies like Armenia, Russia, kind of same in terms of accepting the woman playing football or being in men's world. So what was for you the interesting, or maybe you were surprised to see in Armenia that was challenging while we are writing the strategy?
Well, that's a good question, because I absolutely agree that our societies, they have the same heritage, and we share a lot of the obstacles. So in terms of the cultural specifics, not too many surprises for me here. I come from the same background. What really made me happy and in awe are the people really working, and that's a compliment to you, Anna, firstly, and also the people working on the ground, like the village we've visited, and we met the headmaster of a school and the coaches working with the girls there, and this dedication, this passion for allowing girls to be there, for thinking that football is good for girls, not only in terms of health, but also in terms of the life skills, in terms of the confidence. This really gives hope, as long as you have such people in leadership and on the ground. You see that the strategic documents will work eventually.
And the last question to you, what is the message for young girls who aspire to have a career in sports? So what they should do to start? What you will tell? What's your advice?
Well, my first and biggest advice is always to pursue your dream, and be strong. And even if you meet the obstacles, try to rely on whatever support and whatever community or family you have around you, but never let go of the dream. And I do think that any girl who comes to play football, she will not necessarily become an elite athlete. but football is so much more than just becoming a professional athlete. It's about a lot of things, including friendship, community, life skills, learning how to be a leader, learning how to be confident. And that's what really a lot of girls need, especially in more traditional societies.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Maria. And I want to thank all the speakers. And I know that we have questions from audience. Vlad, please, if we have.
Yeah, you can hear me now, yeah? I hope.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm wearing my UEFA hat, so hopefully it's going to help my internet. But talk about UEFA. So there's a question from Stacy in relation to changing policies, not only necessarily government policies, I assume, but in general. Emma, do you feel that progress has been made in terms of this institutional kind of framework for the development of women's soccer in Europe?
Sorry, was the question, do I feel like a change has been made?
Yeah, an institutional framework in kind of, the public policy aspect of encouraging women to play football.
I think that's kind of country by country, quite specific actually. And I think in some countries that's been huge. I mean, just a few weeks ago in Italy, they made huge major changes to their government legislation to allow female football players to become professional. So it's very sporadic, and it happens a lot just constantly, really. So I think there has been a huge change. At UEFA level, the policies that we're implementing are now starting to have effect across the whole organization. When you write any strategy, it's a little bit like Maria saying about eventually strategic papers work. Eventually the policies do come into place, and now we're seeing that there is a different mindset of the people within the organization. And it's not just the mindset of those people that sit at the top table, but it's those that do the work every day. Because if they also have a change in the way that they look towards their work, then more work gets done for women's football as well as men's football. And slowly those policies become ingrained into the DNA of the organization. And so I would say that's where we're at today, that there is this kind of, that football is for everybody, and the DNA of that is coming through in all our staff. And that would be, for me, the biggest change in policy, really.
Definitely. And going to last question that I started asking, I'm not sure if you heard me before Brandi left, about, she was talking about the gender barriers, the prejudices, and maybe, it's for all of you and whoever wants to start. So what are these major obstacles at this point that you feel that needs to be confronted, that need to be addressed in order to, make women more present in sport, in positions of leadership, and in general? So who wants? So maybe Stacy could start.
Thank you. Thanks, Vlad. I put in the chat box about the link between sport, diplomacy, access, and social work. And it really, we're talking about sport as a social justice issue and access to sport. And I love to hear the talk about actually using the words social justice. With the Alliance of Social Workers in Sports, we're just working every day, especially on now continuing deeply on anti-racism in America. So I just think that goes to policy as the highest form of change, and working every day for the policy issues. So making sure that those reports and those statements that we put out there actually get in the hands of legislators. So that's hard work, and but that's okay. We like hard work. So that's just my point. I just want to bring that on.
Thank you. And so any of the speakers, so anybody who has any thoughts about, the types of prejudice and gender barriers that you're still confronted with, that need to be addressed, in an urgent manner in order to make women more visible in sport. So who would like to take this question?
Maybe I can say something?
Yeah, sure.
Anna, you could actually start. Cynthia,
start.
That means you heard you as a moderator, but now you could, Cynthia.
Well, I always believe in doing what is right, and putting yourself out there. I think as women, you're expected to jump 5 huddles, and guys jump 1 or 2. But I look at it in such a way that the huddles are there, so you might as well jump them. So I think, one of the things is education, very critical in educating the younger girls and boys. So I'm a mother of a son. I teach him that everyone is equal. I don't teach him that girls are better than boys or girls need to be treated better or boys. And I think, education's really critical. The other thing is educating those who are already in sport and empowering women who are already in sport, empowering young men, and facing the cultural issues, facing the social issues that are existing in society through education. So when you talk to people and you show them that, hey, this is point A, but if you work with B, then these are the values and this is what's going to come through, then we're going to be in a better place. So consistently educating, consistently talking to people, consistently talking to people about the value of empowering women, the value of creating equality and giving women the platform to do what they're capable of doing, not necessarily to give favors, but to give women the platform to do what they're capable. For me, the education bit is very, very critical.
Any other thought?
I will say a couple of words. So when we started Goals with Andrea, our main idea was to empower girls through sports, because in those villages, the girls are viewed still like mothers, future mothers, and they didn't have opportunity to be in sports. They did not have the right facilities, they did not have right coaches. So when we started, the main idea was to show them that there is other world rather than village, so they can go to the community, next community, they can make friends, they can go to the universities, they can play in national teams. So I think that in a society like ours, traditional society, that till now we are fighting for women football to be accepted widely. I think that, as Cynthia said, the education is the main point here. So we need to educate boys from young age to start accepting equality, equal play for the girls.
Can I say something on that point?
Sure, Andrea.
I mean, I think that when Anna's talking about what we've seen in Armenia and what I saw also in Zanzibar, that it is really important to educate the boys as well as the girls. And that when we were discussing earlier about finding just one person to say, yes, you never know who is listening. When I started in Armenia, I had no idea who might hear my pleas or my message, and then they show themselves. So I really think that you really have to keep sharing the message, and that we have to educate the boys as well. And also that, a smart Armenian woman once told me that it's not great to be in a room full of women disagreeing with one another, right? We have to have our male allies participate in the conversations if we really want to have a fundamental or policy change. And so, I think as long as you keep the message going, you will find your allies. And I'll just share my last thought on what's going on in Armenia and really around the world. We're in this incredibly unique moment of pause, right? Everything has stopped, nobody can really play. And at least in Armenia, I am asking everybody to revisit what's working and what isn't, so that we don't lose momentum when we start again. And I just would encourage everyone to reflect on how they can take this time to better their programs that already exist for when we do restart, that we can address these issues, in particular at Cynthia's point on educating not only girls, but boys as well.
Thank you, Andrea. This has been a wonderful conversation. If we have a few more minutes, it is from our perspective only the first step, which we are planning, through Digital Communication Network to have a conference on women leadership, probably in Armenia in the fall, obviously if conditions will help. I would like this group that has been created through this webinar, those who participated, and we had over 200 people registering, to stay as a group, to actually continue to talk to one another. So we'll send you an email in that regard. I'm very glad that in the chat room you exchange contact information. This would create possibilities to continue to work together. So there are plenty of plans that we have. This has been only the beginning. I want to see if Ryan would like to say a few words towards the end before we close the webinar. Hopefully Ryan is still with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I just want to thank everyone for being part of the conversation. Thank you to World Learning and Digital Communication Network on really getting this topic in front of this many people. I think all the panelists did a great job really talking about their own experiences. And to Andrea's point earlier, I think, yes, while having the conversation, you have to not only include the women and girls who are going to benefit from this, but also the boys and the men and all others in the conversation. So I think this is a great start. I think even through the kind of gender diversity that I saw in the group today, you have boys, girls, men, women, everyone involved in the conversation. So I think that's the way to really move things forward. And as I said earlier, empowering women and girls through sports is really a key priority of the U.S. Department of State's Sports Diplomacy Division. It's been one of the key components to all of our programs over the years. When we started doing the International Sports Programming Initiative back in 2002 and giving out grants to organizations, that was something that we mandated, that there be gender equity within all of our programs. And that's continued through really across all of our programs. To the extent that we set up the Empowering Women and Girls Through Sports initiative in 2012, which has since evolved into our Global Sports Mentoring Program. So really that's been a key component of what we do, and it's great to see so many people involved in the discussion. And again, thank you, Vlad, and thank you all the panelists and Anna for really setting this up and getting this topic in front of this many people. So thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. And I would like to also thank your colleagues, Matt and Ashley. I saw them in the audience. Remind people that also the Sports Diplomacy Division has every Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken, there are webinars that are moderated by Ashley. Excellent webinars, so please join those. I want to remind you that this has been arranged by World Learning Digital Communication Network, sponsored by the Sports Diplomacy Division of the State Department. Thank you so much to the speakers. Thank you for the audience. You stayed with us 1 hour and a half in considerable numbers. So we are very grateful to you. Please stay in touch. Please be safe. And thanks again for being with us. Goodbye.